Hello and welcome to Behind the Scenes, a podcast for Out of Frame. I'm your host, Sean Malone, the creative director for the Foundation for Economic Education and creator of Out of Frame. Great show on YouTube, if I do say so myself. Here with Paul Nelson in studio. Paul's our Out of Frame Shorts editor and our social media manager and senior marketing manager at FEE. And we are once again devoid of Jen, who would normally be with us today. And it's tragic, but she's on the mend, hopefully feeling a little bit better. But I think she'll join us next week, most likely. But how are you doing, Paul?
Doing well.
Good, man.
It's been a good week.
Yeah, I've had a really busy, weird week just because I've been actually at the studio all week. Not by the time this is actually aired, it will probably been the wrong week to say this, but that's fine. It's actually kind of weird because I haven't, for like the entirety of the pandemic, I think like most people, I have not gone to a location every single day for work. And this is the first week that I've actually done that. And it's granted, it's been the studio, so it's been, enjoyable and fun and whatever. It's not really like that high pressure or anything, but it's been kind of odd. Like having to get up, get in the car, deal with Atlanta traffic, like literally every day.
Oh, that's the nightmare.
It is kind of the nightmare. and honestly, Atlanta traffic is kind of back. Like it's pretty much
back
normal now.
And with a vengeance.
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta's not a great city to drive in general, but plus it rained one of the days this week. And boy, if you want, if any of our listeners live in a place where it rains or it snows or it has a winter or whatever, you won't really understand this. But like when you come to the South, people don't really understand when that happens.
It's either I have to drive 30 miles an hour above the speed limit or I need to be very careful because it's sprinkling.
It's sprinkling a little bit, and we better drive 35 miles an hour on the highway.
Yeah.
That's pretty much...
Safety first.
Safety first. That's pretty much your option. So, yeah, that it took a while, for sure. But, we're here. I don't know, man. Are you... we were talking about Pokemon last week. Any updates on the Pokemon front or anything...
There are some purchases being made.
Purchases?
Yes.
Okay.
It is my birthday. I guess this would have aired. This
is
going to air after my birthday.
It's basically, happy birthday to Paul.
But in this timeline, my birthday has yet to happen.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some gifts that my son will give to me, but that we'll be able to enjoy together.
Oh,
that
nice.
are themed around Pokemon.
Fantastic.
So it's a gift for all.
We have family, or well, again, once this will have aired, this will have already happened. We got family coming over, and like and some nieces, and I have it's happening in like a couple days, and I have no plans for any of that kind of stuff. And I should probably maybe get some plans for like what presents, things like that.
Yeah.
But we've been really busy, moving, basically. We're not quite. It's not all quite shaken out yet, but we're planning on selling our house and moving to a different part of the city, mostly just so my mother-in-law can move in with us. So that's kind of it's been dominating most of my time. Other than that, like it's been pretty hard to like catch up on stuff. Like so today on the show we're going to be talking about. Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is Marvel's new TV show on Disney+. Not a whole lot of episodes are out yet. Paul and I have seen the first couple of them, but we'd like to, like, kind of we did this with WandaVision, and I think it makes sense to do this here, is like kind of get initial thoughts on the series, and then probably we'll come back later after the series over and do like a recap of, our full thoughts.
Hopefully they don't excuse slavery.
Yeah, that would be good. WandaVision kind of just let that slide a little bit in a way that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll go back and watch or listen to that episode or watch it on YouTube or whatever if you want. But like, boy, it was a weird choice for WandaVision to make. And especially because she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2 or whatever. And I guess she's going to be Hero again. So who knows? I guess you can be Hero and enslave a whole town full of people.
It's Disney.
Totally
fine. Of course you can be someone that enslaves people.
Well, that it's not the best segue of all time, but I will get into this. Normally on the show, we at the end of the show, we stick around, we do a bonus section on another movie. We're going to experiment with something today. So for the folks who are our patrons and Subscribe Star supporters. That's patreon.com/outoframeshow or subscribestar.com/outoframeshow. We're actually going to answer some viewer questions instead at the end of this. And one of those questions is about the Uyghur Muslim situation in China, and we'll be getting into that a little bit later. And yeah, I mean, I guess that does tie into the Disney thing pretty well, because for some reason Disney is fairly comfortable just glossing over that kind of stuff, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, it introduces difficult challenges, I think, for me even. I mean, there's certain things like Mulan, which, I skipped. I didn't watch it or whatever, but like I'm still obviously paying for Disney Plus, and I'm still watching, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I'm probably going to watch, most of the other Marvel stuff that comes out. So it's tricky. I mean, you get a huge company like that. There's things that they do or just sort of ignore. I mean, I think in this case, it's more an issue of them not really taking it seriously, or just not, I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know where to go with that sometimes, because I want to express my displeasure through money, essentially,
choices,
through my choices. But also, I mean, we're doing this kind of a job for a living. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to skip the things that are super culturally relevant. But I don't know, man, that's a tough one. So we're gonna have to talk about that at the end of the show. We're gonna talk about a few other questions. We got some really good questions people asked.
Great questions, yeah.
Really looking forward to getting into that later. But for everybody else, we're going to be talking about Falcon Winter Soldier. It's an interesting story so far. It's kind of slow. Well, I say it's a slow burn. The action scene at the very
beginning. Jump right off the plane, right at the beginning.
Jump right out of the gate. Like we get a really, really, really strong Falcon action scene. And honestly, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
But as far as really great superhero movie action, it's top tier. I mean, it really gives him something to do and showcases what he's capable of and how maneuverable he is. And I mean, it's pretty cool scene right out of the gate. And then it slows down quite a bit, I would say.
Yeah, then they go to the bank.
And then they go to the bank. So,
which is interesting. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So I guess I'll get into the plot a little bit. I don't think, I mean, we're going to spoil obviously some stuff that's happened in the first couple episodes. I don't think we know enough about the show yet to really know where it's going. So I'm not too worried that we're going to, we don't typically get into a whole lot of speculation on the show, or it's pretty minor or whatever. And honestly, we could be wrong anyway. So who knows?
Yeah.
But basically, Falcon is working as a contractor for the military, probably for the Air Force at this point, doing missions, periodically, just, making money doing that, but also just kind of doing that kind of stuff between, I guess, what would be bigger Avengers gigs, like actual proper Avengers gigs. And we get into that too, which is weird. Like how do they kind of live outside of that world, which is kind of an interesting question to explore. Of course, Falcon was one of the characters that disappeared in the Thanos snap. So he was blipped out of existence, and he'd just come back fairly recently. So I guess it's, to some extent, it's him kind of trying to get back into life. And we learn that he also has a sister in, I don't think it's technically in New Orleans, but it's like right outside of New Orleans.
Basically New Orleans.
Louisiana. It's basically New Orleans. And she's running a fishing boat. That she also has a restaurant, and so she's catching fish and coming in and cooking fish and stuff like that. And sounds like a pretty good business, except for the last 5 years it's struggled a whole lot. And so she's been losing money. She wants to sell the house. He's not a fan of that because it's childhood home and it's family and everything. It's a tough situation. I mean, it's one of the only things that we see in. We've talked about this on the show before. The MCU hasn't done a very good job of showing the costs of losing half your population. I mean, I talked about this in some Out of Frame episodes as well, and it's kind of weird to me that they still haven't fully explored, like really explored that much at all. Like where, again, if you lose half your population, you're losing half of all the skills, the hands, the minds, like the creativity, everything that goes into making the modern world, you've suddenly cut in half. So yeah, you have fewer mouths to feed, sure, but also you have way few. You're losing pilots, you're losing engineers, you're losing plumbers, you're losing everybody who makes all of these systems run, and it's not interchangeable stuff. Like you can't just put somebody else in to step in and fill in for somebody who's got specific knowledge. So it would be really, really devastating. And this show, it touches on it, but it's not really getting into it.
No.
It's kind of weird.
I do have a question about the blip.
Yeah.
So, for just a hypothetical, if you're during Avengers, not Endgame, but the Infinity War,
yeah,
and you're on a plane and the pilots get snapped,
yeah,
and you die in a plane crash,
yeah,
you obviously are not coming back.
I don't think so.
The flip side, if you're on a plane and you get dusted, but the plane doesn't crash and you come back,
totally unclear.
You just fall to your death?
Because here's the thing. So in the one show, and we talked about this, the one show that actually did show this pretty well was WandaVision. And it showed it through Monica Rambeau coming back and being in this hospital chair. Now, we know she probably wasn't in the same exact spot or whatever, but it seems like the magic of this probably moved people to other places. I don't know how it would work for pilots or for passengers or for, it's not just pilots. Okay, so as an example, to your point, when Nick Fury and Maria Hill get dusted, I guess we can call it that, cars crash. The cars are like crashing behind them.
Yep.
And actually, I think there's a plane crash or a helicopter crash, I think, in that scene too. So clearly we are in a situation where the pilots disappear, the drivers disappear, and then their vehicles carry on and do whatever they're going to do. I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't know how the rules work. It's weird magic.
I feel like the people that got blipped kind of had it the easiest.
Yeah, probably. I mean, so that's clearly that's the way the villains of the series feel.
Yeah.
So we don't know a whole lot about them yet, but we know that there's this group of terrorists, I guess. It's kind of unclear what they're, exactly what's called them, called the Flag Smashers.
I've immediately thought, oh, libertarian terrorists.
You think.
Here
right?
we come.
You think, right? I'm not sure, though. I'm not really sure where they're going with that. I mean, Flag Smashers seems like it should be libertarians, but it's not. I don't know. I think they're, from what I can gather from the show so far, their mission seems to be to revert life to the way that it was during the blip. Again, part of the problem is like the MCU has done a really bad job, I think, of showing the full extent of the destruction. I know I'm talking about this a lot because I think it matters to really understand that, like, if you had half the number of people creating things and innovating things and just doing jobs that are, again, people have a tendency to really over-aggregate the economy, right? They look at the economy and they think, like, there's millions of people. I was listening to a podcast. This is an older podcast. One of our other podcasts at the Foundation for Economic Education is called Words and Numbers. And so it was our first podcast, and it's hosted by an economist and a political theorist. And they're good friends of mine. They had a year and a half ago, somewhere in there, they had a guy on who was an originator, maybe even one of the primary guys who created what's now called modern monetary theory. So people talk about modern MMT a lot, mm-hmm. and they talk about this a lot. And one of the things that struck me as I was listening to their interview because I was trying to research stuff. I was writing other scripts for other things, and I wanted to listen to somebody talk about MMT from the perspective of somebody who really
thinks it works
and was there and, like literally an originator of the ideas. So I'm listening to him and he's talking about how, we have all of this unemployment. And then he would say something like, well, we could just have essentially a government jobs program, like a universal jobs program. Now, his point was that we could create this jobs program such that the jobs themselves weren't meant to be permanent. Like, they were very explicitly not permanent. The goal of the program was to try to transition people from being unemployed to having private sector jobs. And the way to do that, in his opinion, was to create a jobs program that basically, it didn't pay all that well. You weren't really going to get raises, but it was going to get you some experience and some job skills and whatever. The problem, of course, is that the government doesn't really know what jobs are needed. He didn't really get into that, though. Like, the way that he talked about all this stuff was as if jobs is the big aggregate idea. They're just jobs. And it doesn't matter what job you do or what skills you get trained for or what you learn. It doesn't really matter. You can just translate those things to other jobs. It's not really true, though. That's not how any of this works. You know, like
It's not how this works.
It's not how this works. Like, once you develop a certain skill set, that skill set is not useful for an infinite number of things.
Right.
It's useful for the things that you can do or what you can creatively twist into making sense. But like, human beings aren't just interchangeable cogs that you can just pull out of one job and put in some other job and swap around. Like, that's just not how any of this works. But that's kind of the way that I feel about the blip. It's like, if you took away half the population, you're removing all of these really integral pieces to the way that everything functions. So it's not merely a situation where productive output is exactly the same as it is, but just less. So it's not like you get half the number of cars and half the number of planes and half the number of bushels of wheat or whatever, right? You are literally unable to produce that stuff at all. At some point.
Well, we see just what happens this past year when we just kind of slow down on manufacturing and just things that don't seem like they would be related, and it brings everything to a standstill.
Yeah.
And just kind of glossing that over is,
I know,
kind of lazy.
We've got, especially after this year too. I mean, we've got such a perfect example of things where, for instance, meat packing took a huge hit. Not even though everybody was technically an essential worker. One of the problems that we had in the meat packing industry was that the packaging that they were making, or that they needed to pack the stuff, wasn't being produced because some of those jobs weren't considered essential. So like, you've taken away all of these things, but you've got to understand that they all are interconnected and they all affect other things. So
everyone's essential.
Yeah. I mean, everybody really is essential.
The idea that you can pick and choose who's essential and who's not is immoral.
It's immoral, but it's also just intellectually bankrupt. I mean, it makes no sense at all. I mean, look, there's a guy, FEE has, like most nonprofits, we have a board of directors, and the board members range from people who are entrepreneurs and people who are interesting, like sort of got experience in the nonprofit world and that kind of thing. But a lot of them are entrepreneurs and business owners and stuff like that. And one of my favorites is a guy, I won't say his name because I'm not going to talk about all that, but one of my favorite board members is his company creates, they're a metal fabricator. And what they do is they create lawnmowers and like tractor parts and like chassis for like tractors and big machinery and things like that. It's a really, really cool thing. And it's something that people, I don't think, necessarily think about that much. They make tractors themselves, but they also sell chassis and things to companies like John Deere or whoever. And like, if you took that away, if you took him away, because it's not a huge company, actually. Right. It's not like, thousands and thousands of people working for them. It's just, it's a successful business, but it's not a huge business in terms of numbers, And if you took away half their people, it's not like you just get fewer chassis.
Right.
You get none, at least for a long period of time. You get none until you could retrain a lot of people to do a lot of different things. Because let's say you've only got, one or two guys working a particular welding station, or one or two guys working a particular machining station, or all of those kinds of things. You can't just take somebody who's like trained as a welder and put them on like a CNC machine and think that they're going to do the same
output. Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So suddenly, then you don't have tractors. and then you don't have lawnmowers, and then you don't have all this other, you don't have semi-truck trailers and other things that require the same kind of, metal fabrication or whatever it is, right? And then you don't have shipping, and then you don't have, so once you start seeing that web of connection between everything, you've got to understand that like taking out huge pieces is going to create huge ripple effects that become a massive problem. Falcon and Winter Soldier doesn't seem to demonstrate that, though.
No.
Everything's pretty much the same.
Nothing really ever changed. Just you lost some people.
Yeah. It's emotionally devastating.
Right.
But it's not materially or economically devastating.
America's still America.
Yeah, everything is. Now, the only thing, so then that gets us back to the Flag Smashers thing, because the Flag Smashers seem to claim that they want things to go back to how they were during the blip. And that, to me, suggests, I get the sense anyway, and again, this is early in the show, so there could be other things that get revealed and whatever else. But it seems to me that they're saying, essentially, that they want to go back to a world where there was the same amount of resources for half the number of people. Therefore, they were doing better. Theoretically, stuff was less scarce, stuff was cheaper, stuff was easier to get.
The environment was cleaner.
The environment was cleaner. Yeah, I mean, the MCU's talked about the environment. And honestly, that would be a thing for sure. I mean, just fewer emissions and less boats in harbors and, less fishing and all that. But I just don't see how anybody wouldn't be like vastly poor under this situation. Yeah. So I don't know why. I mean, like, again, like the Flag Smashers thing only kind of works if you believe that people were wealthier under the blip than they are now, which of course is a complete concession to Thanos, by the way. It's also just saying Thanos was totally right.
Right.
And that if only we had the moral fortitude to genocide half the population, we could have a prosperous world and people wouldn't be starving and everybody would be great. I mean, it's literally not true. It's absolutely false that would happen. But it's sort of a concession to Thanos, which is a weird place.
I hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right. It definitely would be admitting that Thanos is.
Yeah, you're saying like right. During this 5-year period, Thanos was totally right, and everybody was better off.
Yeah.
Same amount of food, fewer mouths. Same amount of stuff, fewer people. Okay. Again, it's not true. It's not how any of that would work. But it also undercuts the narrative, I think, because, if I'm supposed to take the blip as being like a really devastating thing for the world, then we should be able to see that. It shouldn't just be, well, I was sad because my friend was gone for 5 years or whatever. That is sad, and it would affect a lot of people, but that's not the only effect,
right,
by any stretch. And then the other thing too, and this is another thing that feels like contradictory to me, is that the Flag Smashers thing. Well, it's not just the Flag Smashers. One of the things that the her character's name is Carly Morgenthau, and she's like the leader of the Flag Smashers or whatever. And she says something in, I forget if it's the first or second episode, where she said, well, probably had to be the second episode, where she says, like, the governments of the world seem to only care about the people who came back, but we were here the whole time and they don't care about us anymore, which is why she's like stealing medicine or, doing whatever she's doing. But then simultaneously, Sam Wilson's sister goes to a bank. And this is what we were talking about. Like, she goes to a bank to get a loan to basically save her struggling business. And the bank asks Sam, well, it looks like you don't have any income history for the last 5 years. And he's like, well, yeah, I was blipped. I was blipped. It was not here, right? And they go, oh, well, then that's too bad. We can't do anything for you.
And they know he's the Falcon.
And they also know he's the Falcon, which is like, this is that bank scene, man. The bank scene was rough.
It was painful. And they also have a loan history with his family.
They have like a multi-generational history of loaning money to the family,
and no
to
late
the business.
Payments,
they have no late payments. They've got a long-running business relationship with this bank, and they know that he's one of the superheroes that saved the entire planet. And they're like, yeah, this $50,000 loan that you want.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't think we can.
I also
we just
understand
can't
the
do it.
bank
My
being-
hands are tied. I'm sorry.
I also understand the bank being in a bad position because of the blip, but
Sure, but
they don't talk about that.
They don't talk about that either. But more importantly to me, if the Flag Smashers thing is correct, where the government's only care is about the people who came back and figuring out how to it would be a big challenge for governments and for societies around the world. You've 5 years is like just enough time.
You moved on
to move on
and start rebuilding.
And then when everybody comes back, all of your rebuilding plans are screwed up because you have not accounted for it.
How many people would die because those people showed back up? Because supply lines would be able to hold up.
I know supply lines are a huge problem. I just don't know, man. Like that stuff is so hard to kind of wrap my brain around. But anyway, if it's true that the government was focused all of its attention on that, it would also assuredly have numerous programs and regulatory statutes about the banks specifically and loaning money to people and like credit history and all of the kinds of things. You go, basically, if you were blipped, you come back, your credit score is exactly what it was 5 years ago. Or if the records don't exist anymore, you start from some baseline or whatever. Like there's no way that you would end up with the banks going, well, I don't even know what to do about this.
Well, banks are bad, so.
Well, right. Banks are evil. So, okay, here we are once again. Once again, this is the common theme is that like, yeah, finance is evil, capitalism is evil, all that kind of stuff. It's fine, whatever. I get it. I get it, Disney. You giant multi-billion-dollar corporation.
But concentration camps are fine.
Concentration camps are fine. But yeah, but banks, small
independent banks.
Small independent local banks are a problem. So yeah, I mean that kind of stuff just falls flat to me. It doesn't make any sense. The Bucky stuff is more interesting to me.
Very interesting. The mental health issues, which
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Not just he was an assassin that was brainwashed to kill people. He's also 100 and some years old and has nobody.
Yeah.
His only friend is
man.
now dead.
No.
Steve Rogers?
Steve shouldn't be dead.
He's old.
So he's old. So this is an interesting thing too, because obviously at the end of, again, spoilers. Look, if you haven't watched Endgame, come on, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Get on it.
Yeah.
Why are you even listening to this? Go finish your MCU watching. But Steve at the end of that movie is what appears to be in his 70s or something like that, right? Late 60s or 70s. He's an old man now. He passes the shield on. Then he just kind of walks away. I don't know where he is. He must be alive. Steve exists in this universe. He's definitely not dead. So,
Question.
yeah.
Why does Bucky not age?
Well, Bucky, so I'm a little curious about this too, because Bucky, as far as I understand it, was not on ice the entire time. So you could say Cap didn't age at all because he was sort
Frozen.
of cryogenically frozen or whatever. Because he did age later. He went back.
Right, he went back and lived his life with...
Yeah, and let's say he went back, 80 years, and then he lived another 80 years or whatever. So now he's 100 and whatever it is, 160 years old or something like that. I can buy that. He's slowing. His age is slowed. Bucky's age should be similar though.
Right.
Well, I mean, not 160, but it should be like 120 or whatever, whatever it is. I guess 100 years old. And I don't know. I don't really know why he doesn't seem to age.
I'm sure
Cap definitely aged.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason.
I mean, maybe something to do with the other super soldier program, because he did do it was a different program.
Ah, yes.
So there's that. That said, he got the better deal, I guess. He got like the.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. That's what's very interesting is he's going through all of this and is basically alone.
Yeah, I mean it does, like, you really get a sense. I mean, there's like, some of it is played for comedy because he has to go see a government there.
Read The Hobbit when it came out in 1937.
Right? He's like, I read that book when it came out in 1937. You're like, yeah, that makes sense, right? But Man, that scene though, and again, I'm gonna spoil this. This is for me like a little bit more of what I hope is sort of the core of the series, or at least some aspects of the core of the series. Is that like, I mean, Bucky's hanging out in this Japanese restaurant with this old man, and we come to find out that he had like killed his son, and like at some, in one of his assassination missions. And I don't even know if the guy was even his target. I think he was just in the
wrong
way.
place.
He was just the wrong place, wrong time, whatever. But it's just like, here's a guy who Bucky can talk to and identify with and be friends with because they have the same, like historically same
Right.
age group kind of experiences. And at the same time, he's got this underlying secret that is like keeping him. It's such a terrible, terrible thing. And I don't know. I mean, that's a fascinating part of the show to me. And I think exploring that more and getting into that relationship more, I think is going to be really good. The Bucky and Sam stuff has been pretty good too. I think once they actually got
Classic
into
buddy
it,
cop.
really buddy cop, and I think that can be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Because they are very different characters.
Yes.
They've done a really good job in the MCU movies of setting up that they're bound together through Steve.
They don't really.
They don't totally like each other. And I mean, they start out hating each other for obvious reasons, but like even now they're like, ugh,
Tolerable.
Tolerable.
Yeah.
Kind of the worst. Like Sam's little drone thing.
Yeah.
Gets smashed by one of these flag smasher people, and Bucky's like, man, I wanted to do that forever. It's just like, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff I think is going to go really, really well. And I think over the course of the series, in the second episode, we revisit Daniel Bruhl's character, Baron Zemo, which I'm really looking forward to because Daniel Bruhl was absolutely one of my favorite villains in all of the MCU, canon so far. I'm glad that he's back. I'm looking forward to that a great deal, especially because like at the end of Civil War, it was an interesting end for that character because he just kind of sat there and was just like, I didn't get what I wanted. My family's still dead. Everything that I care about is still a problem. Mm-hmm. And that was an interesting end, because it wasn't an end in like a fiery explosion or whatever else, because we're all focused on Iron Man versus Captain America stuff. That's a good one. Yeah, I don't know. How much do you think Hydra is going to kind of come into this?
I'm sure some, maybe. I don't know. Hydra seems to be played out.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, Hydra's supposed to be defunct now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are plenty of Hydra secrets.
Hydra secrets, probably some Hydra computers, stuff like that to find the serum.
Wonder if Toby Jones's Armin Zola would come back, the guy in the computer.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
he could still exist.
We already saw him as an AI, so why not just be in another robot body?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the show in general. Friends of mine haven't been quite as like thrilled with it as they were with WandaVision. I'm not entirely sure why. It is, again, it's a little slower. There's a little bit more walking around and talking about stuff.
I really enjoyed the first episode.
Yeah.
The second episode was pretty. It was very forgettable.
Well,
it was very MCU-ish. The episode 1, we see Bucky. Yeah. He's in a therapist office.
Yeah.
The camera, the videography is actually interesting. Mm-hmm. And his story with the old man, and then his subsequent date with the waitress. And probably my favorite scene is when he's sitting there waiting for her, and the little cat statue that just has his arm rocking. He just tries to push it and stop it.
It just won't.
It just won't. And you can just see the little. And it's a throw. It seems like a throwaway scene, but it's perfect for that character.
Yeah. So episode 2 gives us the proper introduction of new Captain America, John Walker. Mm-hmm. Possibly, I'm not really sure. For comic fans, he might become U.S. agent. U.S. agent. So John Walker's I don't know all the history of this. Like you'd have to ask somebody else on this part. But like, I know basically he took up the mantle of Captain America for a little bit when Captain America had kind of gone rogue. This is in the I don't know if it's happened in the 70s or 80s, but where Captain America, and it's similar to the MCU stuff a little bit, because it's basically after Winter Soldier, Captain America kind of abandoned the government and kind of became his own thing. And so there was a period there where there was no Captain America. There was no official Captain America. And in that period, they added other characters like John Walker and like Isaiah Bradley, who was the guy in Baltimore that they go and meet. The U.S. agent one, though, it's just such a B grade, like such a down, like just a garbage version of Captain America. And the thing is, like, we get introduced to him in the second episode a little bit more, and he seems at this stage to be like he's trying to be a good guy.
Right.
But he's not Captain America. We all know he's not Captain America.
He knows he's not Captain America.
He knows he's not Captain America. The fact that the only reason he has the shield is because Bucky disagrees with this decision also, is like because Sam gave it to the Smithsonian, and then the government took it from the Smithsonian and gave it to this other guy. But, I mean, I'm sure we'll get a lot with that.
Yeah.
Because I think the arc here is for Sam especially is to have him become Captain America, essentially.
Yeah.
Although I've always thought that was a little odd. Not for a couple reasons. One, because Falcon already has an identity, and I always think it's weird when you take another character and swap the characterization and put them, especially when you already have an identity.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know why you wouldn't just make Falcon the core hero and just call him Falcon and just continue to be Falcon. The other thing, too, that's always seemed strange to me about this, and honestly, a dear friend of mine, Afua Richardson, did a really great cover. This is years ago. She did a great cover for a Captain America issue where it was the Sam Wilson Falcon Captain America. And her cover art's great, and I love it and everything. But like the thing that always stuck out to me is like really weird is that wings and a shield, and like it just seems so cumbersome.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work. Like it's not as a costume or as like a gimmick or whatever. Like I don't know how you do that. And they've done it for years in the comics. It just, I don't like it. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially in the context where you go, you're Falcon, you have a particular set of skills and attributes and whatever. Why not just play those up more?
Right.
You know, more gadgets, more like wing-based stuff, more flying-based stuff. But if you're flying, like you're going to need your hands. You're going to need to be free to.
Also, the shield would be
right on there. Oh, yeah. There's so many things.
Liability.
Don't make any sense.
Yeah.
I've never really liked that. But look, that's where we're going. Clearly headed there.
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I assume. I don't think it's going to Bucky.
Does it need to go to anyone?
I don't think it does. That's where I think actually Sam's, in a way, was right to give it to the Smithsonian. You can't trust the government for anything,
right.
Which is the other problem.
Just keep the shield.
Just keep the shield. Yes. And then maybe when you die, give it to a museum or whatever.
Right.
But like, display it in your house. Whatever. I don't know. But this gets to something that I'm pondering a little bit about, maybe even doing on and out of frame episode. I'm not quite sure how this will play out yet. I want to see a few more episodes first. But the government has this idea that they can just manufacture another superhero.
Right.
And in particular, not that they can manufacture any superhero, but they can specifically manufacture a replacement Captain America. And that is one of these central planning things that really you see a lot. Like, so, okay, Captain America was officially created by government in the sense that his powers were given to him by government. Fine. Everything that made him worthy of those powers, everything that made him a superhero, and everything that made him somebody who would create a brand with Captain America. And people talk about personal branding, whatever, and it gets kind of stupid to me sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, Captain America as an emblem, as an idea, means something only because Steve believed what he believed, had the values he had, did the things that he did, all of those kinds of things. You can't just transfer that to somebody else
Right.
and get the same stuff.
Values.
Because those values, not only do those values not exist, they haven't been demonstrated yet.
Right.
You know, and they try to like do this interview with John Walker where they kind of run through the exposition of like, oh, and then you did this, and then you saved this person, and then you did this feat or whatever. I haven't seen any of that. I haven't seen him. You know, there's a point where, well, would you jump on a grade? And he's like, yeah, I've done it 4 times. And I'm like, but I haven't seen you do it.
Right.
You're not like, so, and granted, I know that the series recognizes this. They know that I'm going to hate this character. They know that we're all going to hate this character instinctively. So they're kind of playing it the right way in a lot of ways. Especially because if they showed us him doing heroic things, we probably wouldn't feel so betrayed by the idea that he's even, you know, being given this title. But at the same time, this is just such a perfect government-y thing to do, which is like, oh yeah, here's this thing. We'll just make another one.
Yeah.
We'll just manufacture the other.
It's the same thing.
It's the same. Yeah. You can't though.
No.
You just can't.
No. I really do hope that it goes the way of nobody is Captain America.
Yeah, I would too.
And because you really get the sense with John Walker characters, just in the brief time we've been introduced to him, is that he is a decent person,
Yeah.
is a brave person, and doesn't feel quite comfortable with it, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would be.
I don't want him to be the villain.
I don't know.
It feels too easy.
It does feel easy. It's certainly too easy to make him like a proper villain. But there's a little hint of it, you know? I mean, there's a little hint of this, like, if you're not going to help me, stay out of my way, kind of like gruffness of like, I don't know, you know, but that's fine. Whatever. It's not too late to.
But there's also, I mean, Tony had that.
Sure.
The only person that didn't have that was Captain America.
Pretty much.
Every other Avenger pretty much had the same attitude.
Yeah. It's just that we got to grow and see their growth the whole way there. I mean, that's part of the thing about revealing character attributes in exposition. Like the show don't tell.
No,
thing,
you're right. Right.
Because we haven't seen John Walker do anything heroic yet. Now, he's done some physically impressive things.
Got his butt kicked by
He did.
the Flag Smashers.
He did.
Which
So did everybody else. It's fine. Sort of.
yeah, weird.
Yeah, weird. I mean, so again, the Flag Smashers thing is going to play into a lot. But when you don't show him doing, so again, you can't tell me like Captain America in the first Avenger, in the first Captain America movie, when he jumps on that grenade, it's a really, really important scene because it shows you, and it's not the first thing in that movie. It's like the third or fourth thing in that movie where you go, yeah, man, this guy.
It's a good dude.
This guy's a good dude. He is, he doesn't have the physical skills. He's not that cool. He's not, you know, but man, he is brave.
Yeah.
Man, he is like in it to be heroic. Like he's doing it for all the right reasons and he's super, super brave. And so that's important. You can't then turn around and just tell me that. Like if you'd taken that same scene and then somebody off screen was like, oh yeah, then Captain America, that kid Steve, that little scrawny Steve kid, he jumped on a grenade today.
Right.
You go, okay. Sure. Right.
So this is kind of goes up to, I think, a big issue that Marvel is going to have without Captain America.
Yeah.
Is none of these characters really have any bound morally to anything.
No, not really.
And
no. Which is weird.
I mean, it's natural though.
Except for
that's what makes Captain America my favorite, and it's why he's my favorite MCU character.
Sure,
is because he actually has a belief system and it fights for it regardless, even when it's against his own country.
Yeah,
which that's strong. That's powerful.
Yeah,
and it's the only reason why the Avengers even have a shot of working together. Yeah, is because of him.
I totally agree.
And you can't replace that. No matter if it is the Falcon. I mean, he's just the Falcon. He's still not Steve.
No, I know.
So
I don't know. I don't know how you solve that problem. I've asked this question on Out of Frame before too, which is like, who is going to become the moral center? Who's going to replace Captain America? And it's not going to be somebody who's exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. When you look at the other characters, Sam is close. Morally speaking, Sam's pretty good, but he's not very he's not explicit about it.
Right.
That's what I mean to say. Like Captain America had strong principles. He would articulate those principles. I mean, again, like, every time somebody tries to start a war before, or tries to end a war before it starts, people die, right? Mm-hmm. He had really clear statements of like, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it, and this is what we're going to do. Sam's never really done that.
No.
He's been from the beginning
helping his friend,
and generally speaking, helping people, right? Which is good. Bucky's a mess.
Yep.
I mean, and he would tell you he's a mess. I think you got a little bit of a shot with Black Panther, but it's not quite clear. And also, I have no idea what their MCU is even going to do with that character without Chadwick Boseman. You're probably going to have to, if they do it, what I kind of expect them to do, they're going to take Shuri and make her a new Black Panther or something like that, which would be fine, except for I don't know what she believes. So she's not going to be the grounding center. And also, her and T'Challa both, they're more pragmatist. Mm-hmm. They don't have the kind of principle.
Right.
Anybody in the Iron Man world doesn't,
Wanda doesn't.
Wanda certainly doesn't. Doctor Strange, not really. He's too far removed from everything. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a big hole.
It's a big hole. Yeah, I don't know where you go with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're going to see.
Yeah.
And there's not, I mean, I can't even think, there aren't that many characters in the shows that have been announced either who I think would fit.
No.
I mean, there's stuff like She-Hulk or Moon Knight or whatever, but I don't think any of those are really going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Phase 27, here we come.
Phase 27, I know. We're like, we're all the way there. Well, then you get into some of the characters or some of the rumored characters, Fantastic Four, bringing in the X-Men, stuff like that. But you still don't have anybody who fits that center. There's a reason why Marvel, not the movies, but the comics, all of their big event comics for years and years and years have had Captain America somewhere at their center. Civil War II, Marvel's, like almost everything that they've done that have been these kind of big things. Even like Secret Invasion or like Secret Wars. I mean, Secret Wars was more Spider-Man and stuff like that. But like all of that had Captain America in there. And whenever he was there, he was like the central focus point of like, oh, Cap, tell us what to do. Right? Like what, call the shots, man. Like what do we need to do to fix this problem? Or how do we need to approach this or whatever? And he'd always be the one who they relied on. I don't know that Marvel has another character that's like that.
Yeah, I feel like Iron Man, Tony Stark not being dead, I guess, obviously. I mean, it's a comic book movie. Then
yeah,
if you can sign Robert Downey Jr. to another contract, then
you'll find a way.
But to me, it's not the biggest loss.
It's not. No, I think Cap is the bigger loss. I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. I don't know. And I don't know if Falcon and Winter Soldier is even going to really grapple with that too much, but I do think it's a big hole. So, I guess final thoughts on this. I mean, we're just getting into it.
Yeah, so far it's interesting. I hope it's more of episode 1 feel where it's not just punching
on a semi truck on the top of a semi. Marvel's done a lot. I gotta say
that whole sequence I just kind of hated.
Yeah.
Because Bucky just runs right past the first semi, and the first semi didn't say he saw someone.
I know, he didn't see him
open the door.
I know, he did the whole thing without.
Didn't honk.
I know.
Didn't like
I know.
Nothing.
I was like, Bucky, you could just see him. You do something about that.
Not very sneaky.
Nope, not at all.
And then they just got their butt kicks.
Yeah.
And that makes no sense.
No. We will see. There's another one of those. I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the series. I hope that there's a lot more of the buddy cop stuff. I hope there's a lot more of the exploration of Bucky's psychology and all of that kind of thing. And honestly, I hope we get a couple more really good Falcon flight scenes, because dang, that opening scene was
Pretty
good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. All right. With that in mind, we are going to end it here. For everybody who is not a supporter of the show, still thank you for watching or listening or however you're consuming the show. Definitely check us out on YouTube. Watch the newest episodes of Out of Frame Shorts, and then join us on Discord, because the Discord's open to everybody. We'd love to see you there. Paul and I are in there talking to people. We're really, really excited to have that and to communicate with everybody. But from the Discord, we've pulled a series of questions. We're going to stick around right after a short break for our Patreon and Subscribe Star supporters. And we're going to answer some of those questions right after the break. So stick around for all of you guys, and for everybody else. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.